Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. And welcome to the Winslow Township Board of Education's special board meeting. Today is Wednesday, August 5th, 2020. Public notice of this meeting was given to all board members and associates in a notice dated July 23rd, 2020. It was advertised in the Courier Post, posted in, all the schools, the administration office, the municipal building, the library, the Bardubel Center, Edgewood Acres, Elmtown, and the Winslow Township post offices. And this is our mission statement. The mission of the Winslow Township School District, a large, diverse, and growing community, to educate all students to become independent, lifelong learners, critical thinkers, and caring and confident members of the community. The district, in partnership with the community, and in a climate of cooperation and mutual respect, will provide an academic environment which values excellence and diversity, encourages students to strive for personal excellence, and assist them in acquiring the knowledge, skills, and attitudes necessary to contribute positively to a rapidly changing world. Roll call, please.
Mr. Blake,
Mr. Blake?
Present.
Ms. Dredden,
Ms. Dredden will not join us. She will not be joining us tonight.
thank you. Ms. Martin,
Present.
McClendon,
Present.
Ms. Mitchell,
Present.
Mr. Shaw,
Present.
Ms. Thomas,
Present.
Ms. Peterson,
Present.
and Ms. Pitts.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Bull. Can we just simply, at this time, recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. McClendon, our district goals?
Yes, Madam President. The 2020 district goals. Number 1, student achievement. Continue implementation of the academic plan to address A, articulation at all grade levels throughout the district. B, focus on classroom instruction at all grade levels. C, increase student proficiency rates throughout district. D, evaluation and updating all district programs. E, accountability all district staff. Number 2, continue to foster a positive school environment that is conducive to teaching and learning. A, focus on building relationships among staff that will result in increased learning and more effective instruction. Creative instruction, which is training and retraining. C, emphasis on collaboration with all district stakeholders. D, promote cultural competence throughout district, which includes teacher to student relationships, and 2, student to student relationships. Number 3, market our strengths and all stakeholders to increase capacity for parent, giver, community support. Which is A, continue with our public relations marketing plan. B, continue to work with various advisory committees. And C, and communication methods utilized by the district.
Thank you, Ms. McClendon. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Madam President.
Board members, at this time, as we all know, this is a special meeting, and certainly, I'm sure the public is certainly joining us and is anxious to begin with their questions. However, board members, what I'm going to do at this time, I'm going to, at this time, move over the public comments, and I'm going to move to the Business Administrative Board Secretary's report, because there is an item there that we need to vote on, as well as an item that appears on our addendum. So at this time, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the Business Administrative Board Secretary's report, that number 1, approving a contract for a nationwide mobile broadband data plan. And includes number 2, approval to apply for the Digital Divide Grant Fund. Is there a motion?
Mitchell, second.
It's been moved by Ms. Peterson and second by Ms. Mitchell. Would there be any questions about this? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Blake,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. McClendon,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Shaw,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
and Ms. Pitts.
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Thank you, Ms. Boyle. Board members, at this time, I'm going to move to our addendum. Here again, it's an addendum to our Business Administrative Board Secretary's report. And the item has to deal with the Lisa's Law Compliance and School Security Grant. At this time, I'm asking for a motion to approve this item on our addendum.
Peterson move.
Mitchell, second.
Approved by Ms. Peterson, second by Ms. Mitchell. Would there be further comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Blake,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. McClendon,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
and Ms. Pitts.
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Thank you, board members. Board members, at the top of page 2, we are now at the point where we're going to enter into public comment, which is certainly the sole purpose for this special meeting. I'd like to start again, as I usually do, by advising everyone that the Winslow Township Board of Education highly values the input of citizens in making important decisions that affect our children of our community. We also believe in the rights of citizens to observe our board meetings, to ensure that all our citizens have the opportunity to attend school board meetings and offer comment, or that the board can conduct the important business of the district. We are asking all callers to follow these guidelines for making their public comments when they're asking their questions. The board president or board secretary will recognize those individuals who wish to make comments. Excuse me. Please respect these following procedures. Number 1, all members of the public attending this, joining in with this special board meeting must treat each other and the board with respect. Number 2, when you do call in, kindly and clearly state your full name and address. Number 3, please limit your comments to 4 minutes, and I would like to take this time to let all of our callers know that those 4 minutes begin at the point that you speak. So if and when you're calling, if you have a 10-point question, I'm advising you to condense that as much as you can. And if you're not able to get the remaining part of your question, kindly just email Dr. Poteet with any questions that you have not able to get through tonight. Number 4, you can also submit your questions to the Board of Education with your name, address, and telephone number where you can be contacted. Your questions will be answered within a reasonable amount of time. And number 5, individuals offering citizen comment are not permitted to make personal attacks on any district employee, board member, other testifier, or member of the public. Board members, at this time, I'm asking for a motion to open this special meeting to public comments. Is there a motion?
Peterson move.
Moved by Ms.
Second.
Peterson, second by
Mitchell.
Ms. Mitchell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, thank you. At this time, board members, we are in the mix of our special board meeting. We are going into certainly the question and answer portion, and at this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Poteet to bring us into this. Dr. Poteet?
Yes, Madam President. Good evening, board members, members of the community. Before I begin, I'd like to make a clarification based on a statement that was made through a discussion at our last meeting. If you can recall, at our last meeting, a parent, Mrs. Schrader, called in and asked about technology for the lower grades, and she stated that the lower elementary students were not given Chromebooks. And I said that they did receive them. I want you to know that Mrs. Schrader was correct. The upper elementary students received those Chromebooks, but the lower elementary students did not. So I wanted to make sure that clarification was done first and foremost, since that discussion took place in a public meeting. What I would like to do, first of all, I'd like to inform the community that I received over 200 questions. And rather than try to answer each of those questions, I want to thank everyone for your participation in sending those questions as I requested. What I've done, because it was so many questions, I categorized those questions into certain particular areas based on the interest in which they had shown. And as a result, I'm just going to do an overview of each of those categories, and hopefully I will answer your question. So I'm asking everyone to please be attentive because during the course of my presentation, your question may be answered and you may not need to ask a question later on in the meeting. One of my letters stated that they weren't able to hear a lot of things that were said during our board meeting. So I'm going to speak very loudly so that everyone can hear. The first category, ladies and gentlemen, was remote learning. I received quite a few questions about remote learning. So I just want to give you an overview as to what remote learning is. And again, hopefully I will answer many of your questions. Remote learning will be a form of blended activities that may include computer-based and paper-based activities. Computer-based activities, as appropriate, may include pre-recorded teacher lessons, video conferencing, or supplemental online programs. As you know, the governor, since our last meeting, presented to us new guidelines on remote learning. And it clearly states that a student may choose 5 days of remote instruction. If you are interested in your child receiving 5 days of remote instruction, you must contact your building principal and you must sign a statement. There will be a form available for you online starting tomorrow, declaring that you want remote instruction for your child. According to the guidelines, we must set up a policy and procedure. And the first procedure is you must sign up. And we're going to make it very easy for those parents out there to put that sign-up form online. So that will be available to you, and it will be total remote learning request form. So that we clarify what remote learning is, let me tell you some of the things that we will not be doing. The teacher will not be available every day online to respond to the to the students. The teacher will be available on Wednesdays online for instruction. Everything will be done online, and the students will never have to come to the school. We will provide Chromebooks and hotspots to those families who request them. Last week, it was stated that Chromebooks will be given to everyone. I want to clarify that. Chromebooks are at the request of the parent of those students who may need them. There will not be live streaming of teacher lessons available to students every day. It is not a situation where teachers will be videotaping their classes while they're teaching. So I just want to make it clear that live streaming will not be available. I have been asked many times, will the remote learning be equal to the face-to-face learning? I would like for you to know that the face-to-face instruction will not be the same for the remote instruction because we do not have the staff. So it will not be equal, even though the governor said that remote instruction should be equal to face-to-face instruction. But we do not have the staff in order to meet that requirement. So 2 days face-to-face instruction as opposed to 1 day online face instruction for the remote learner. However, part of the requirements are, if you start in remote learning, you may switch to face-to-face instruction or from face-to-face to remote instruction, but you must do it 2 weeks prior to the opening of school from the beginning, or you must inform your building principal 2 weeks prior to the end of the marking period. So when you go to online to fill out your total remote learning request form, it will have the marking periods and will also let you know what the 2-week time frame is and when that lesson will begin. So remote learning does not necessarily mean that you have to stay all year as stated last week. If you want to change over at the end of the first marking period, you may do so, or the second or third marking period. If you are face-to-face and want to go to remote learning, the procedure is still the same. Depending on the grade level, there will be some packets. However, K-3 students, as opposed to last year, will have access to technology this year. So those young people, K-3, will have access to technology. If a student is a full-time remote learner, he or she may participate in sports and extracurricular activities. However, you must take in consideration that we do not know if there will be a fall season because we are following the New Jersey State Interscholastic Athletic Guidelines. And if the conditions improve, we will be prepared to transition back into full person instruction. The platforms that we will be using, starting with Google Classroom / Google Meet, will be the district's major platform. However, WebEx will be available and other apps will be available. One parent asked me in reference to remote learning, if the parents are doing more work this year, will they qualify for a tax credit? And to my knowledge, that answer is no. Let me move on to the next model, which is the hybrid model. And the hybrid model, in comparison to the fully remote learning, the students will be in school 1 or 2 days per week, 2 days per week, schools 1 through middle school, 1 day per week at the high school. They will have a normal start time as we've always had, and they will be in school all day. They will have a schedule to follow, and specials will be offered while they're in school. Lunch will be provided to those students. Lunch will be in some classrooms, will be provided in the cafeteria or other large common spaces depending on the size of the student class or school. Gifted and talented classes may be offered. However, it will be contingent upon staffing needs at the building level. For example, If we have a shortage of teachers and the gifted and talented teacher may be asked to fill a class as opposed to just doing pull-out during the course of the day. Special education and ELL students, especially those that are self-contained, may attend 4 days per week. Now, that is our recommendation. Last week, one parent stated that she didn't want her child attending 4 days per week. However, we believe in order to meet all of their needs, particularly the additional services, our recommendation is 4 days a week, particularly those youngsters who are in the self-contained. Space being available, other students with IEPs may also have an opportunity for 4 days a week. Before and after care will be available on those days that your student is in school. The district will not be providing child care for anyone, including staff and students. During the hybrid model, the class size for a regular classroom will be 9 to 12 students. And that is, of course, depending on the size of the classroom. The preschool kindergarten class sizes will be 5 to 8 students, with those inclusion students that are required to have a space included in that count. If teachers are absent, of course, we do have a substitute service, and hopefully that substitute service will be able to provide staff for us during the course of that year. All parents will be receiving no later than Friday, no later than Saturday of this week, a copy of the Restart Recovery Plan, at least the component that pertains to education. And in that letter, you will receive your child's schedule. That schedule will be a colored page, different from the letter itself. And on that page, it will tell you whether or not your child is Group A, elementary through middle school, meaning Monday and Tuesday, Group B, Thursday and Friday. And keep in mind, Wednesday is a total remote day. For the high school is divided into 4 cohorts. Cohort A is Monday, cohort B is Tuesday, cohort C is Thursday, cohort D is Friday. There's a cohort E, but that is for our MD, LLD, and BD students, which will have an opportunity to attend Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And again, these are our self-contained students. A reminder again, Wednesday is reserved for remote learning and parent contact. For those students who have selected full-time remote, we will make every effort not only to try to give you more face-to-face time, but right now, Wednesday is the only day we have that is strictly for remote learning. One other issue that I would like to address that many have asked about, and that was face coverings, the wearing of masks. The Winslow Township School District, and it is by law, that face coverings are required by everyone in our schools. All staff and stewards must wear a face covering at all times unless prohibited by a documented medical condition. However, the person must maintain social distancing of 6 feet from others if you do not wear a mask, even though everyone, even with a mask, must maintain 6 feet social distancing. But if you do not have a mask, you must also maintain 6 feet social distancing. The district will provide both cloth and disposable masks. Approved mask coverings are disposable masks, cloth masks, neck gaiters, and face shields. We have provided examples of those on our website under the reopening of schools recommendations. Parents may purchase their child a face covering of their choice according to district guidelines. All masks should be a solid color with no writing or design. I also received additional questions about when can a student remove their mask? Students may remove their mask while eating or drinking if seated 6 feet apart from others, and this is usually in our cafeteria or during the lunchtime. Seated at a desk or assigned workspace at least 6 feet apart. Engaged in activities in which maintaining at least 6 feet apart is assured. The teachers may provide face covering breaks at recess, outdoor activities, or physical education. When face coverings are removed, they must be placed below the chin, in a pocket, or the lap. Students will be instructed when they can remove their face coverings by their teacher. Face covering breaks should be no longer than 10 to 15 minutes. Also, I've been asking whether or not uniforms will be required, and we have and will be discussing that further with our policy committee, but at this time, uniforms are still in place and will be required. One parent also asked about face masks in terms of children confusing and mixing the masks while in school or even swapping masks. Our direction is that one, since students are 6 feet apart at all times, that they should be able to maintain possession of their masks and that they should not, of course, put themselves in a position where that may occur, particularly with the younger children. So we're asking our parents if you would please continue to have conversations with your children about the importance of face masks or face covering and why they should be worn. The next category would be special education. I have about 3 others or so, but I want Dr. Carcamo, who will be assisting me this evening, if she would address special education. Special education was, of course, a topic that I received quite a few questions. At this time, Dr. Carcamo, would you just review special education and address some of the questions we received?
I think one of the primary concerns we had from families was whether or not students would still receive their related services. So the answer is yes. Students who are currently receiving speech, OT, PT, the services that are listed in the IEP will still be in place. With regard to students, special ed students who are not able to wear masks, whether or not students would be required to. And the answer is no. If there is a legitimate reason why a special ed student cannot wear a mask, that student would not be forced to wear one. We would make sure that social distancing is in place. If a special ed student had to attend 4 days of schooling, the answer is no. We simply made that option available. So if the parent chooses to have their special ed student come for 2 days a week, that's simply the parent's choice. But for a parent who would like their child to receive the additional schooling, that child would be eligible contingent upon the number of students in the classroom, and especially the more severe students. I think those were the the major issues, concerns with special ed. Dr. Poteet, were there additional ones that you thought that you wanted me to address?
No, I think, Dr. Carcamo, those were the main issues about making sure they received additional services, making sure they received the additional help that they may need, and whether or not, particularly those young people who are full-time remote learners. Could you address that, Dr. Carcamo?
So the classified students who are remote learning would be given a schedule activity, same as the students who are in class. Their instruction would be guided by a special education teacher. If the student was in a classroom where there was a teacher assistant, so if it's a self-contained classroom, there is normally a teacher assistant assigned to that class. That teacher assistant would be able to assist the classroom teacher by doing some video conferencing with the student to help walk that student through the assignment. So in a way, the student would almost be getting the assistance of a one-to-one or in a small group setting. So there could be some recording done in the classroom by the teacher assistant. The schedule would also indicate when the student should have a break and what specials the student would be a part of.
Okay, thank you. I want to make one clarification about the face mask. One of the options was the shields, but the shield was only for special education students who possibly could not wear a mask, and if he or she is able to wear a face shield. Face shields are only an option for those special needs students. It is not an option for all the other students in the district. Thank you, Dr. Carcamo. And I'm going to go over just a few more categories based on the number of questions. There were some questions in reference to transportation. The district will be providing transportation for those students who are in the hybrid model. And in that, during those rounds, once the bus arrives at that place or that pickup, the student must already have their mask on. We will have masks available for parents prior to the opening of school. And if you do not have any masks and you would like to pick up a mask prior to the opening of school, you may call your building principal and make arrangements for pickup. We will also have masks on each of the buses. In the event a student forgets his or her mask, we will have masks available for each student at the bus stop. Students will be picked up at their designated bus stop on the days that they are assigned to attend school. Every student, as I stated, will be required to wear a face covering, as well as the bus driver and a bus aide on those buses where appropriate. Again, this requirement may be waived on a case-by-case basis for issues such as students with special needs or medical conditions. The students will fill the bus back to front with one student per seat, and that is 22 students per 54 passenger bus. Of course, keep in mind the size of the bus will dictate the number of students, but there will only be one student per seat with a mask. Mounted hand sanitizers will be placed on each bus to be used as students mount the buses. Windows will be partially open to provide ventilation, weather permitting, and the students will discharge that bus from the front to the back. Drivers will have a list of cleaning protocols that will be followed every day to make sure those buses are clean and sanitized, particularly between runs. Meals and food service was another area, particularly for those students who are now on full-time remote learning. Students will receive breakfast and lunch while in school. Students will receive their meals in the classroom, the cafeteria, or any other designated place in the building. All meals will be grab and go or packaged. No tray-style lunches will be served. Lunches will be staggered to maintain social distancing, and students will be spaced at the tables 6 feet apart. Free and reduced meal students who are receiving full-time remote learning services will receive breakfast and lunch. Food for 1 week may be picked up on Wednesdays at schools number 3 or high school. Pickup hours will be posted. For those of you who are already familiar with our present grab and go procedures, as we also had last year, we are going to be providing meals on Wednesdays for those students on remote learning. We'll be giving you enough food for 1 week, and that will hopefully last the student until the following week. We will be following the National School Lunch Guidelines, which means only those students who are school age and who qualify for free and reduced lunch will receive those meals. Students who only attend school 1 or 2 days per week, and this is our hybrid students, may pick up food on Wednesdays for the number of days they're out of school. So if you're out of school 3 days, you can pick up 3 days of meals on Wednesday. And if you're out of school, like in high school for 4 days, you may pick up 4 days of meals on Wednesdays. All food pickups will be on Wednesdays. Paying students may also order meals for the week for the days they are not in school. These meals may also be picked up on Wednesday. So if you are a paying student and you want to purchase meals for the week or for 3 days, you may also do so on Wednesdays. Again, the National School Lunch Guidelines will be enforced. They are different than what we had during last year and what we are presently doing during the summer months. This is based on our day-to-day regular normal school days, and those national school guidelines, again, I emphasize only those students who are school age will receive meals. So if there are other siblings in the homes, they will not qualify for those meals. As mentioned earlier, technology, all students K to 12 who request or need technology will be provided a district-owned Chromebook. The district will also provide those families without internet connectivity. This will be provided. This service will also be provided. We will have a sign-up sheet also for that purpose. So parents, if you want to sign up for a Chromebook or internet connectivity, this form will also be on our website. All you have to do is go to your website, indicate that you will that you need a Chromebook, connectivity, or both. List your child's name, grade, the parent's name, address, email address, phone number, and the school, and that service will be provided to you. For those parents who do not have internet access, if you will call the school, we will make sure that information is mailed to you, or you may pick that information up. Social emotional services for those students who may have some issues making the adjustment to this COVID pandemic crisis. In order to meet our social emotional needs, our student resources will be available to these young people during the day, as well as for those students who are receiving remote learning. Our principals will provide that information, and our counselors and resource people will be available to provide that service. Counselors, case managers, and other student support staff will be available for students whether they are cohort, is in school or not. Students will be given instructions on how to schedule these meetings. Facilities, the cleaning practices. All buildings will be thoroughly cleaned every day. Hand sanitizers will be placed in every classroom at schools number 1 through school number 6. And at the middle school, hand sanitizers will, at the high school, 3 sanitizing stations, will be placed in each hallway, at the end of the hall and in the middle of the hall. So let me repeat myself. The middle school and high school, 3 sanitizing stations will be placed in each hallway, 1 at each end of the hallway and 1 in the middle. But I also want you to know that hand sanitizers will be, bottles will be in each of the classrooms, as well as sanitizing wipes. Restrooms will be cleaned every half hour on the hour. High touch areas will be wiped down frequently. Hallway water fountains will be turned off, and students will be provided small bottles of water at their request. So instead of students getting up, going to the water fountains, teachers will have water in their classrooms for their students. The last area I'd like to cover is safety concerns. And all the schools in the district will be addressing the safety concerns. And the question that came up frequently was, what happens if a student or staff member tests positive for COVID-19? If a student or staff member tests positive for COVID-19, it will be reported immediately to the Camden County Department of Health to commence contact tracing. The staff or student must be quarantined for 14 days. Only those students who have come in close contact with the teacher will have to quarantine for 14 days. Now, our medical advisors have stated to us, close contact is, for example, if a teacher tests positive for COVID-19, a student will have to be or had had to be within 6 feet of that teacher over a 10-minute period. If those students in the back of the room have not been in close contact with that teacher, they will not have to quarantine for the 14 days. If a student is out for COVID-19, they will be medically excused from school and there will be no penalty, and they will immediately go into remote learning while they're at home. The Camden County Department of Health, once they are contacted, will respond to the school within 24 hours. So if you're at home and you know your child is sick, you take them to the hospital, they test positive for COVID-19, or if a teacher is home and tests positive, that information goes directly to the Camden County Health Department. They will inform us in 24 hours. They will conduct the investigation, and their team will also come on site and they will be conducting the contact tracing. None of that will be done in the schools. That is something that will be done by the Camden County Health Department in Camden County. We will provide them with the schedules of each staff and student so that it will be easier for them to perform their task of contact tracing. Teachers will monitor social distancing, but this is going to be one of our most greatest tasks, because I've been asked, how are we going to keep these young people 6 feet apart all day? Again, we are asking for your support to continue to have these conversations with your children, because we know it's going to be a challenge for us to continue to remind these young people of their social distancing. No social gatherings will be at the schools at any time, because I was asked whether or not students who are hybrid would have an opportunity to come to the buildings, and I stated to them, no, they will not be able to come. One other area for safety, and that's temperature checks. Staff temperatures will be checked on a daily basis. Student temperatures will not be checked at school. We're asking parents to self-monitor their children as much as possible. And if a child is sick or have a fever of 100.4 degrees, we're asking that they stay home. We're also going to provide you with a letter or a form. It's called the COVID-19 Wellness Screening Checklist. And we're asking each parent if they would sign this checklist. And it is, I agree to screen my child each day for the following symptoms of COVID-19: fever above 100.4, frequent dry cough, not due to an existing illness, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, a sore throat, headache, chills, new loss of taste or smell, and any new foot sores. I agree that my child is experiencing any of these above symptoms. I will keep my child home consult my health care provider, and obtain medical clearance from the doctor before my child returns. And that information is asked that you fill that out. Staff and students who have symptoms, COVID symptoms while in school, staff members will be sent home, and those students will be isolated. We have an isolation room, in every school, and those individual students will remain there. We will contact a parent or guardian to pick those students up as soon as possible. The question was asked of me, why don't the school nurse do the temperature screening? One, we only have one school nurse in each of our elementary schools, two at the middle school and the high school. It is physically impossible for that one person to do the screening in the amount of time it would take to bring all the young people in and maintain social distancing. And we want to try to eliminate as much exposure to the nurse as possible, because if the nurse gets sick, then we'll be without a nurse in our schools. So we need to make sure we maintain a nurse, because young people and staff members may get sick during the school day throughout the school year. Visitors to our buildings, all parents and visitors must have a scheduled appointment. All visitors will be temperature screened and sign an acknowledgement that they are COVID-19 free. And we will have a form at each of the schools as visitors arrive. The questions will be asked. Within the past 24 hours, have you experienced frequent shortness of breath or a frequent cough unrelated to pre-existing medical conditions? Yes or no? Have you had two of the following symptoms related to pre-existing medical conditions? Chills, sore throat, new loss of taste or smell, muscle pains? Yes or no? Experience a fever of 100.4 or higher? Been in close contact with someone who's tested positive for COVID-19 within the past 14 days? Each parent will be asked if they would fill out one of those upon entering our buildings. The last thing I want to mention, because we are asking for parent support in all of this, because it'd be just physically impossible for the school district alone to be able to achieve what we're trying to do. And we know that this task is something that we have been asked to do. The question was asked of me, can you guarantee that no children will get sick or no teachers will get sick and ultimately end up in a fatality? I cannot guarantee that no one will get sick. Even with all the safety precautions we are taking, all the guidelines we are taking, I cannot say to any of you that I can guarantee you that no one will get sick. Unfortunately, I cannot do that. The last question was, taking in consideration this present pandemic, why don't we just close schools down and go 100% remote? I think most of you know that it is not the decision of the superintendent or the board, according to the guidelines we received from the New Jersey Department of Education and from the governor. We have been asked to open schools under these guidelines and following all the safety guidelines as prescribed. We do not have the authority to close schools or go 100% remote. Only the governor can give us that authority. And at this time, Mrs. Pitts, members of the board, I hope I answered as many questions as I possibly could. And at this time, Madam President, I'll try to answer any questions that any of the callers may have. And I would also say that if there are some questions that I can't or don't get to, please go to the district's website under the, under the update for the reopening of schools. read those recommendations as well as the frequently asked questions. And I think some of the questions may be answered there. Madam President?
Thank you, Dr. Poteet. Dr. Poteet, just before we open up and begin to hear from the public's any additional questions, can we say that we do have some principals who have joined for this special meeting, even though they may have been on vacation?
Yes, the majority of our building principals have logged in and are listening as we speak.
Thank you, Dr. Poteet, and thank you, principals. Ms. McCoy, are we ready to open up to the public?
Yes, we are.
Please hold.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Good evening, Speaker. You have joined the board meeting and you're now doing public comments. Please state your name and address and then make your comment. You may wish to turn down your device.
Okay.
State your name.
My name is Mia Gogan.
Can you spell your last?
residential address is 311 Banner Avenue, Chislehurst, New Jersey.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Sure. Govan.
Thank you. You want to make your comment?
Yes, my question is with regard to the cohort. How were the cohorts determined?
Yes, the cohorts were determined. We did our very best by trying to use the alpha, the last name of the students. So for example, cohort A may have started with A and went as far as C. Let's say the last name of the student was Catchings. So it'd be A to Catchings. B would be C to F. So we tried to do it alpha, and we tried to do that so that we could try to keep families together as much as we possibly could. So if you also have a lower level middle school, elementary child, they also tried to do their scheduling by alpha. And hopefully we tried to make sure that the children with the same last name were possibly attending school the same days. We can't guarantee that that happened in every case, but that was our objective.
Okay. And so there was no consideration of the children's academic levels?
No, all
whether they were in
students.
gifted and talented programs or honors classes and things of that nature?
No, because we have students of all of those academic levels in each cohort. So it's a regular school day. So you have students from your upper levels academically all the way to our special needs students going to school every day, just depending on their last name. So all the classes are offered every day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too. Good evening, Speaker. Could you state your name and address, and then you can, go ahead.
Michelle Shihadi, 7 Belmont Court.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Sure, Shehadeh.
Okay. You can make your comment.
Okay, good evening, guys. The reusable stations over at the high school, there's actually 3 of them. Would they be available for those students that bring in their own water bottles? That's one question. Second question is, this is all considered in the high school hybrid learning. If the kid has a class on Friday, but has a question concerning Monday's class, will she or he have access to the teachers for Monday's work, if it's actually due on Monday? And then the third question is, since Dr. Poteet, you stated we have 1,000 extra Chromebooks last board meeting,
You didn't say that.
Why can't a teacher put that Chromebook on their desk, turn off the camera so there's no privacy issues? So at least the students that are hybriding and have remote learning at that day can hear the teacher and ask questions as if they were in person classes.
Well, there are a couple reasons. One, the additional Chromebooks were not necessarily purchased for the teachers. Those additional Chromebooks were purchased for those Chromebooks were purchased for those students that we have identified during the course of last year who may need technology. As you can recall, in our previous meetings, we talked about parents and doing the surveys of how many parents may need technology. And of course, we also have to take in consideration K-3, which we did not provide service for last year. So no, those extra Chromebooks that we are purchasing is for those individuals that we know already who do not have technology available. So now we are doing so that we can make sure that all our students are in a position to take part in the remote learning. Now you asked 3 questions, and I'm sorry, what were the first 2 questions?
Speaker, could you ask your first 2 questions again?
This one was, in the high school, there's a reusable water stations by the lunchroom and by the band room. If a student decides they want to bring in their own bottles, would they be available for them to be refilled?
Well, we are, because of, we're not sure of the sanitation.
Speaker, if you could turn down your device in the background, because we're getting a double play here.
We are, for sanitary purposes, we would prefer at this point to provide our own water, not filling those containers. That will not be a responsibility. Those containers will probably be removed, and that we're asking everyone for safety purposes that we provide them their water. We will not be purchasing and filling those water fillers. As a matter of fact, they will probably be removed.
Excuse me, Dr. Poteet.
Yes.
So I believe the water fountains that she's speaking of are the ones that cannot be removed. We can simply turn them off.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Carcamo, for your clarification. Either way, thank you. Either way, they will not be available to the students.
Speaker, could you repeat your second question?
I'm going to use my daughter as an example. Suppose she has class on a Friday. The teacher is trying to work off of Google Classroom Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Whatever's due Monday is due Monday, naturally. But she's got a question for Monday's work. She won't see that teacher till Friday. Will she have access to that teacher? I know you just said that if they're going full remote, they won't have access to a teacher.
Yes, the same thing we did over. Yes, the same thing we did over the past 4 months. We are also asking our parents or our students to send your teachers an email or communicate through the teacher as much as possible. But I think an email access, which worked very well for the high school last year without any face-to-face. So at this point, we want to make sure we maintain those things that did work. So they will have access to that teacher. All you have to do is send them an email and they will respond.
Okay, one more quick question.
Excuse me, Dr. Poteet, I'm sorry. Now, Ms. Shaheda, you did say that you had 3 questions and you have used up your 4 minutes. And so I would hope you would.
Thank you, Ms. Pitts.
You're welcome.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Mrs. Pitts, I'm going to try to do a better job of keeping track of the questions, but when they ask multiple questions, it's tough for me to write them all down and still try to respond. So I'm doing my very best.
I understand. Thank you, Dr. Poteet.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next caller. hold on, we have,
So they will have access to that teacher. All you have to do is send them an email and they will respond. Hello? Okay.
thank you, caller. If you could state your name and address, and then you can make your public comment.
My name is Rosemary DeChico, 412 East Central Avenue, Winslow Township, New Jersey, 08037.
Okay, would you like to make your comment?
Yes, I have two comments. Number one, are there going to be any dividers for the elementary school students up through schools 5 and 6 in the classroom? And number two, why would we give children water bottles in the classroom if they're just going to be sipping on them, taking their masks off? I don't feel like we should be doing that. And my third comment is, I think Dr. Poteet said earlier that in the building, children would be able to remove their masks if they're more than 6 feet apart. However, I thought they had to be worn all the time in the building except when eating. If he could please clarify that.
Yes, the first question was, will there be any dividers in the classrooms? There will be dividers in classrooms where we cannot conduct social distancing of 6 feet or more. And there will also be dividers used when teachers, particularly in the special areas, when teachers have to come closer to the students to provide instruction. But dividers will be used, particularly where social distancing cannot be in effect. Water bottles. Yes, I did state that water bottles, and you also, if you recall, I said there will be mask breaks. And again, we're talking about the little small bottles of water. I think they're like 8 ounces. Most of the young people will be able to drink them right up. But we don't see that as a problem. But we also saw that as an alternative, as opposed to having young people leave the classroom to go to water fountains. And of course, those water fountains are no longer available. Removal of the mask, the only time you can remove your mask would be in the areas in which I indicated. Let me go back. I stated that students may remove face coverings when eating or drinking, if seated 6 feet apart, seated at a desk or the assigned workspace at least 6 feet apart, and normally during those times the teachers has designated that there's a break. However, as long as they are 6 feet apart at the discretion of the teacher, yes, those young people can remove their masks. And I also mentioned about when they engage in certain activities, recess outside, and when the face coverings are removed, they must place them below the chin, in the pocket, or place them in their lap. So yes, that is my clarification to that particular statement.
So that is what I heard, and according to Governor Murphy's new recommendations, that shouldn't be correct. They should be worn all the time inside, regardless of how far apart they are, unless they are eating or drinking.
Okay, and we will not argue with the governor.
Distance does not make it, it doesn't matter if they're 10 feet apart or 4 feet apart. If they're inside, masks need to be worn.
Okay.
Dr. Poteet, this is Mr. Long here. The governor made an announcement at his press conference and announced that the DOE would be providing additional guidance. As of this morning, the last time I checked, that guidance has not been formally issued, apart from just what the governor said at his press conference. So once we can get our hands on the guidance from the DOE, we'll be able to revisit that, as it actually says, and provide it.
And Mrs. Pitts,
Yes,
I agree with the parent to this point. If that is what the governor said, we will we will abide by that directive. However, you do know there are a lot of things that the governor has stated that does not apply to schools. For example, maximum of 25 people in any gatherings. I don't have one school in the district that is less than 300 students. Even when we do our social distancing, we're going to have at least 100 or more students in the classroom. So there are a lot of things that are being said that does not apply to the schools. So as Mr. Long mentioned, I have yet to receive that guideline directly as it pertains to the schools, and I'm only going by the guidelines I have in front of me. However, to the caller, if that is the case, and once we receive that information, we will comply. I am not at odds with anything you stated. We will comply. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Can we bring up the next?
Yeah.
Good evening. You've joined the board meeting, the public comment section of the board meeting. If you would please state your name and address, and then you can proceed with your comment.
Cindy Skarnick, 50 Brearley Drive, Sicklerville, New Jersey.
Okay, you're live.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if these were already covered because we lost our signal for quite some time during the meeting. I was interested if there was going to be any kind of G-tier specials if you choose remote learning and how that would work. And my other question was, how many students would have to, what percentage of students would have to pick 100% remote learning for it to free up one teacher per grade per elementary school to do remote learning for the 5 days? So like if you have 5 second grade teachers and you have 30% of the students pick remote learning, can you free up one of those teachers to do the remote learning to get more than just Wednesdays?
Was that your last question? I'm sorry.
Yes, those were because like I said, we lost the signal, so I don't know if
Okay.
one of those were covered already.
Okay, and that's a very difficult question to ask because at this point that is an unknown for us because with the new guidelines, of course, now parents have to request 100% remote. And until we get those numbers and look at our staffing, because the flip side of that, we still don't know how many teachers may be coming or who may stay out. So at this point, I can't answer that question because I don't have that kind of information available.
So I just want to know if you knew what the percentage was, and if you had teachers that didn't want to come back, maybe they would if they could do solely remote learning, and that would help your staffing also.
I think it's a great idea, but it's one that I can't respond to at this time. I don't have the answer for that.
And what about the teaching specials for remote learning? Is that such a thing, or is that they don't have to worry about that if they're doing remote learning?
Well, yes. Again, just as we did from March to June, there were specials that were available, and those that we can provide online, those specials will be provided to those students online.
Okay, and then the special teachers are available also on Wednesdays?
Yes, they will. All staff members will be available on Wednesdays. That's why we don't have, there will be no face-to-face instruction on Wednesdays.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, caller. Good evening. You've joined the public comment section of the board meeting. You state your name and address, and then you can begin with your comment. Caller.
Good evening. This is Danelle Hunter, 14 Serene Lane, Sicklerville, New Jersey.
You can make your comment.
So I have 2 questions. Will the remote students be assigned a teacher? And the second question is, for the remote students, how will their work be graded?
Okay, the remote students will be assigned a teacher. As a matter of fact, all the remote students are still on their rows. And when we assign class lists, a remote student will be in that class. They will receive all of the same assignments as those students in that class. For example, if your child is at high school and they're in cohort A, they will receive the same schedule as the students who are in school. That is also advantageous in the event your child decide to come back to school. They'll come right back into the schedule that's already created for them, and there's a seat already available for them. So they will follow the same schedule. Let's see.
I believe the question,
The
how would they
second
be
question was
graded?
in regards to
Oh,
how
they,
their work will be graded.
well, they will be graded, again, pretty much the same way we did during, the past year. They do their assignments, they turn it in and be graded by the classroom teacher. It is pretty much the same as we've done. There will be no slacking off or any difference in the grading for them as it is the person that's in the building itself. The schedule that they will be following, of course, when the other kids go to a special or something, then they'll have that special on their schedule, and therefore will either not have it at that time or during remote they'll get that. But their grades will be the similar as those young people, the same as those young people who are receiving face-to-face instruction. There will be no difference.
Thank you. One last question. Is the expectation that the remote students will be online the same as like the traditional school day?
Yes, they will have the same schedule to follow, and so that they can chart themselves so that they'll know if their first period is English, that's when they should be doing their English. If the second period is math, that's when they should be doing their math. And their day will end the same time the day will end for the face-to-face students. So yes, they pretty much will follow the same schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, caller. You have joined the public comment section of the board meeting. If you could state your name and address and then provide your comment.
Amanda Pascal, 30 Donham Loop, Berlin, New Jersey, 08009.
Okay.
My question is, earlier you stated about parents filling out a application online for the children to do the remote learning. My son is special education, and do I have to fill out a form online for him to do the 4 days in school? Because he suffered tremendously doing the remote learning this past year.
No, if you decide that you want your child to have the 4 days instruction, when you get your schedule this weekend, then you will follow the schedule that is there. And if it's 4 days of instruction and as well as services, then he will receive those 4 days of instruction and services.
Dr. Poteet, it would also be beneficial for the parent to notify the school if they would like to have their student attend 4 days.
Okay, do we have a particular form for that?
There will not be a form. So this parent does not have to fill out a form for for face-to-face. It will simply be notifying the school that I would like for my child to attend 4 days.
Okay, and that is for all special education parents
That's
at this
for
point?
all. Correct.
Okay, thank
And
you.
that way the building principal then will be able to determine the number of parents who are requesting 4 days and to see how we can best accommodate their requests.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a nice night.
Thank you. Good evening. You have joined the public comment section of the board meeting. If you could state your name and address and then proceed with your comment. You may wish to turn down the device in the background.
Hello?
Yes. Could you state your name and address? And then your, go ahead.
Haley Robert Townsend on Briarcliff Road, Atco, New Jersey.
Can you spell?
18 Briarcliff Road. BRIARCLIFF.
All right, could you make your public comment?
Yes. How many students and or teachers have to become infected with the virus before you go into 100% remote learning?
I would like to say one as superintendent, but that is, again, not a decision I can make. The Canyon County Department of Health will be the determining factor. Probably not one person will make them, cause us to shut down and go fully remote. But I will not put myself out there and make that determination. But the decision will come from the the Canyon County Department of Health. They'll make that determination.
Would they have a number? If I contacted them, would they have a number of how many would become sick to go to 100% remote?
I think, yes, ma'am. I think that they will be better, in a better position to address that than I am at this point.
Are they available? Can you give me a website or a contact number so that I could get an answer to this?
I don't have that available to me right now. We do have your contact information, but I do know if you would just go to Camden County Department of Health, to that website, and it will give you that information right there on the website.
Camden County Department of Health.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
Responsibility to self, guys. Accountability.
Good afternoon or good evening. You've joined the public comment section of the board meeting. If you could state your name and address and make your comment.
Nicole Gabehart, Winslow Township. My question is about the possibility of thermal imaging scanners for temperature checks in the buildings as the students walk in. And I'm also wondering what they are cleaning the building with, disinfecting. Are they using foggers or UV lights? What was their main process of disinfecting the building?
I don't know the name of the project, the products they'll be using. I know they will not be using defoggers or mist, particularly because of the equipment. You don't want to spray it on your computers and things of that nature. But I can have my business administrator get your name and information, and we can be more than happy to send that information to you. But I don't know the name of the products and things of that sort. But I do know that they have received the approvals that are required by law in order to use those products in a school or around children, and as well as staff.
Okay. What about the possibility of the thermal imaging scanners for temperature checks? Because I know there are schools locally that are installing those, in which as many as 6 bodies can go through at a time to determine the basic temperature to see if somebody does have a fever.
Well, we will have our monitor checks, but they will be for the staff only. We discussed that thoroughly, particularly through committee. And we felt that at this point, particularly for our students, it would be in our best interest to ask our parents to monitor those children or our children as we always have. And if they're sick, not to send them to school. But at this point, with only one nurse in our buildings, even with that equipment, it will be pretty much of a challenge for that person to be able to monitor both staff and students. And at this point, that is the only person that we have available in our buildings to do so.
I'm talking the things that almost look like metal detectors that you walk through that aren't quite as encompassing feeling, but you walk through and somebody would be on a computer, like a security member or something like that, where they're identifying if somebody happens to have an elevated color scan, and you pull them aside and you actually check them separately as they enter the building.
No, we do not have that type of equipment in our schools. I think we may have looked at the cost, but we have not pursued that as an option for us. But no, we do not have that equipment. And we will not have that equipment available for the open schools.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. You have joined the public comment section of the board meeting. If you could state your name and address, and then you can make your comment.
Jennifer Moss, 6 Celia Street, Sicklerville, New Jersey.
MOSS? No?
MAAS.
Thank you. You want to make your comment?
Yes, I do. My comment is I logged into the meeting a little bit late, but under my understanding, there was regarding children with IEPs that children that only receive speech, occupational therapy, and physical therapy will be permitted to receive services if they decide to do remote learning. And my question is, my daughter has an IEP for language arts and math. So if this means if my husband and I decide to keep her home remotely, is she not going to receive these services? Because if she doesn't have these services, she will fall behind and she will fail her classes. She needs these services in order to be successful in school. And that's one of the reasons why we put her in the Winslow schools, was because of the special education services.
So, ma'am, are you speaking of related services for your daughter?
Yes, ma'am. She receives related services for language arts and math, and she has an IEP. We just had her meeting in June.
Oh, so she was just recently classified, and based upon the IEP.
She was classified when she was in 1st grade.
Okay.
And we had her in a different school. We put her in the Winslow schools when she was classified with an IEP so she could receive the services as far as for language arts and math. She has 3 different diagnoses of learning disabilities.
So what we would need to do is to get and we will get your information, take a look at your daughter's IEP, and then we will have the case manager be in touch with you, and then we can determine how best to service your child.
Okay, because right now, as it looks, my husband and I are probably going to choose the remote learning. I just want to make sure that her education is not going to be put by the wayside as far as getting those extra services, because we were blessed when she's 7th grade, when everything went remote in March. Her teacher stayed on top of everything and offered her the same services as if she was in school, and she actually flourished. And she was able to finish out the school year with pretty good grades. I just don't want her going into this remote learning in September and not having access to teachers because they're only online 1 day a week.
No, your daughter would still have access to her teacher.
Will there be live instruction other than the 1 day a week? That's my main concern, because during the school year, she had live instruction from a teacher almost every day of the week.
Well, again, that depends on on the teacher, depends on the class, and what's in your daughter's IEP. And then we will determine best how to service your daughter.
Okay, so I have to contact her case manager?
So I have your name. I will pull your daughter's IEP, review the goals and objectives. I will meet with the Director of Special Services, and once we determine who your daughter's teacher is and what the requirements are, then we will be back in touch and let you know exactly what it is that we will put in place for your daughter.
What else? Oh, yeah, the main reason why we're choosing a remote is concern for our children's safety. So like I said, I just want to make sure that, you know, she's going to be allotted those services. So thank you very much for
You're welcome.
looking into that. And is there a way, will I be contacted by mail or email once services or teachers are determined?
Well, I'm sure at first you'll probably be contacted by phone because there will need to, a conversation will need to take place with you. So you will receive a phone call.
So do you need any other
Is that
information?
okay?
Since you already have my name, then you'll just look at her records.
Actually, I have your name. Is your daughter's name, does your daughter have the same last name?
Yes.
Okay, we know how to get in touch with you then.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, caller.
Bye.
Thank you. You've joined the public comment section of the meeting. If you would state your name and address, and then you can make your comment. You may wish to turn down the device.
Hello, my name is Fernandi Higgins, and I live at 3 Salem Court, Sicklerville, New Jersey, 08081.
Can you spell your last name?
Hagans.
Hagams. Okay.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to ask these questions. I know a lot of parents, as well as the staff and teachers and administrators, are working very hard to come up with solutions, and we appreciate this opportunity. My question is based around the learning platform and remote learning. I do understand that at this time we cannot really offer remote learning options such as live streaming and things like that. Is cost one of the driving factors to that decision, is my first question. And if so, is this something that we are looking into for future, being able to offer this technology for our students?
Okay.
For COVID, right? And we're all kind of just figuring things out, and it's such a quick turnaround from last year to the start of this year to be able to get those things in place, and we didn't budget for that, understandably. But is it something that we are looking into to incorporate in the future?
Live streaming, it's twofold. One, we do not have the capability to do the live streaming with all of our teachers. And yes, there is a cost associated with that. But one of the other issues is we have to also make sure that we address the contractual obligations of the teachers as well, and to make sure that we're all on the same accord. So I do know there are some, when I say contractual, maybe some legal issues as it pertains to live streaming or having teachers teach live, to the equipment that we do not have. And yes, 3, there is a cost involved. And keep in mind, we're talking about a school district only 2 months ago. We were just a regular, normal school district where that wasn't necessarily an issue. And for us to transform the school district into what our needs have become in just 2 months, is really asking a lot.
Absolutely, and I completely and truly understand that. And the reason why I ask it is for a multitude of reasons, right? One, we don't know if this is going to go away, if there's going to be, right? But thinking proactively and thinking ahead, what is the plan for that, as far as even if it's a phased approach. And I ask that question because I do know that neighboring districts are doing that. Part of it is because they were just better positioned to, due to grants and opportunities such as that. But I ask that question because as a parent who has two in high school and one just making it into school 6, I think like, well, you know, proactively, we can continue to look for those opportunities to position our district in a better place moving forward. We do understand, and trust me, I
Yes.
think we do understand
Yes.
that
Yes.
nobody could afford seeing this. Nobody, nobody. So everybody is trying to find the best solution. And I live in an intergenerational household. So the concern of my children bringing it home to my mother is a serious concern, which I'm sure everybody's concerns are safety as well as quality of education. And then I have one last question, and I do apologize. Is there a way or a place where we can get like a directory of maybe retired teachers or anything to compile to be able to even find other additional opportunities to be able to ensure that our children are getting the additional support? Not saying that it needs to be paid for or they need to teach. It could even just be a matter of ensuring that our students have opportunities for tutoring. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. As a matter of fact, both of your questions make sense. And to the first question, we are always looking at ways to better our delivery of services. So we will continue to look at ways to improve. The district does not have a directory of retired teachers that we can say, here's a list of all those teachers who've retired over the past 5-10 years. No, we do not have that available at this point. Hello?
Begin to compile. And I only say that because I know I've posted it out there and I've gotten 2 wonderful teachers who taught in Winslow who are willing to do that. But being able to give parents additional resources are imperative because if we choose
Right.
to do the remote,
Excuse me, Dr. Poteet, I'm sorry, but to the caller, I really do apologize. But Dr. Poteet, she's way over the 4-minute
sorry,
timeline.
not a worry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, caller. You have joined the public comment section of the board meeting. Can you state your name and address and then proceed with your comment?
Tawanda Womble, 501 Susan Road, Tamerlane Apartments.
Okay, can you make your comment?
Yes, when students change periods and they go to different classrooms, will the classrooms be disinfected or the dust wiped down in between periods?
No, it will not, ma'am. That is humanly impossible for us to be able to do that in every classroom. However, we will have wipes available in every classroom. So if the young people take a wipe, they can wipe down the top of their desk, their chair, prior to sitting down. That is our best solution at this point, because at this, take, for example, the size of the high school, for us to be able to go into every class and wipe it down between periods. 1, we wouldn't have enough time, and 2, we don't have that kind of staffing. So we're asking our young people before sitting down, take a wipe as they enter the door. Of course, that we have hand sanitizers in the classroom. If they would take the time to wipe their seat down, we would appreciate it.
Okay, and if students wanted to wear like disposable gloves while they're in the classroom, would that be permitted?
That has not been a question asked at this point or raised. I don't see any problems with it, but I do want you to know that health-wise, gloves have been something that they're not even recommending anymore because the gloves continue to carry whatever that virus is. So if you're taking in one classroom, whatever it is, you're taking it with you again, because you can't wash them or you can't clean them. So the best thing is to dispose the gloves so you can clean your hands as often as possible with the hand sanitizer. So gloves for that particular use is not being recommended by the CDC. And therefore, since we are following those guidelines as best as possible, that isn't something that we're recommending. However, if that's something you want to do or your child want to do, we will not be opposed to it.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
You have joined the public comment section of the board meeting. If you could state your name and address and then your comment.
Hello, my name is Mary Wellick, Wellik. I reside at 2 Clements Hand Court in Sicklerville. And I have a question. I initially opted for the hybrid. With continued thinking and discussion with the family, I think I need to go to the remote learning. I have 2 first graders. Do I contact the school for this change? And the other question is, Dr. Poteet stated that the remote learning isn't up to the standards as required by our governor. And I was just wondering how, as a school system, we can pick and choose what standards we have to meet, and why remote learning wouldn't be equivalent to the hybrid classroom setting.
My response to your first question about remote learning, we will have a form on our website because, as you know, the requirement is that you can or should request it. So there will be a total remote learning request form on our website starting tomorrow. And if you go to the website, fill it out, get it to, we'll make sure it gets to the building principal, and that's all taken care of. As far as following the guidelines of the state and being able to pick and choose what we want to follow, that is not the case for us here in Winslow. We're not picking and choosing what we want to follow. I would love to be able to have an equal face-to-face and remote learning. All I need is probably about 50, maybe 75 more teachers, and then we're able to do it and still meet all the guidelines that's in the plan. But at this point, I don't have a choice because I can't hire that many teachers and there aren't that many teachers available. So that's the only reason we're in that situation. It wasn't a matter of picking and choosing. There are just some things we aren't able to do. And even in the guidelines, as they are mentioned, they tell us what to do, but no one has ever said to us, this is how you do it. So I'm left in a situation where I have to decide how we can best do it here in Winslow. And right now, I have not been able to come up with that solution with not having the number of teachers in place, because what we have, the teachers can't be doing face-to-face and remote at the same time. It's either one or the other. So if I had additional staff, I can meet that requirement.
Okay, so the remote learners are going to lose out, so to speak, at some level of the teaching skill that they would get in the hybrid situation.
Yes, if that's your question, yes. It is not the same as getting 2 days of face-to-face. You're absolutely right.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. You have joined the public comment section of the board meeting. Please state your name and address, and then you can make your comment.
My name is Rosemary Hoffman, 7 Birch Avenue here in Elmtown. I'm a retired Winslow Township reading specialist,
Okay.
and I would like very much to be paired with a classroom teacher to provide support for those on remote learning. And I'd be glad to help organize something or do whatever I can to make it more effective for the Winslow students in September.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And we have your information. I'll have someone to reach out to you.
Good. I have somebody else that's interested, also a special ed teacher.
In the district?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. If you pass that information on to us, we'll see what we can work out.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you very much. If you pass that
Good evening. You've joined the public comment section of the board meeting. If you could state your name and address.
Tina Marshall, 9 Celia Street, Sicklerville, New Jersey.
Okay, Ms. Marshall, if you make your comment.
Yes, I was calling. I'm a little confused. The governor has specifically said that remote learning has to be the same as in person. And I just heard Dr. Poteet say that he would have to hire an additional 75 teachers. I'm a little confused because our neighboring districts are doing live streaming. He also stated something about contractual. I believe that this is public school, and I believe that we all pay taxes for this service. I don't understand why the students who cannot come back to school because of medical reasons have to suffer. And so I'd like to know how you can back that decision, the entire board. I'm confused on how you can back that decision.
I'm not sure what else you want me to say at this point. You have heard my position, and I'm not sure what else I can share at this point.
Well, you have to share something with us. You're not giving us anything. You're giving us the same stuff that you gave us 2 weeks ago. You're giving us the same stuff that's on, and that's not what the governor said. And you have to do that because it's not that difficult to set up a laptop, Chromebook, so that there's live instruction, even with students in the classroom. It's the same exact thing. It's going to be done through Google Meet or something like that. It's private.
Okay, then we can agree to disagree. I mean, I'm not sure what else you want me to say at this point.
Okay, well, I also have a special education student who has an IEP. Are the case managers going to be reaching out to each individual one to make sure that all of the services are done?
Yes, they will.
Okay, so I'll be expecting a phone call within, the next couple of days.
I can't tell you exactly when that's going to occur, but you will receive information from the school district in reference to your daughter.
But that's not what I asked. I asked if a case manager was going to call me to discuss.
So, Dr.
the
Poteet,
IEP.
if I might respond, the case managers will not be reaching out within the next 2 days. So schedules are usually not sent out to parents until the end of August. That's when you get your transportation notification and the actual classroom assignment with teachers. So case managers are not.
He said earlier that we would have schedules by Friday, Saturday at the latest. So now you're telling me the end of August?
If you will allow me to explain, I will. What you are receiving this weekend will be the grouping that your student will be in to tell you whether or not your child will be, what day of the week your child will be attending. The information that you will receive at the end of August will be the classroom, the teacher, as well as receiving the transportation information, 2 different things. So you're finding out what days your child will attend school. That's what's coming this weekend. The other information will come later. So the case manager, your child's case manager may not even be in district this summer because they don't all work during the summer. And if you are expecting a phone call from your case manager to discuss the child's program for next year, that will not take place. If you would like a call, that would more than likely take place in September or toward the end of August.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. You have joined the public comment section of the board meeting. Can you state your name and address and then your public comment?
My name is Glenn Meredith, 7 Cedar Hill Drive, Sticklerville, New Jersey.
Okay, you want to make your comment?
Yes, I would. I'd like to know, I understand that the air conditioning systems have been serviced and certified that they are going to be safe for our students and for our teachers and employees. I'd like to know what specifically has been done and then what is going to guarantee that a child in the back of the room or in the classroom that has tested positive for COVID-19 will not be infecting other students in other classrooms. And I'd like to know what that entails.
Well, we have and continue to service all of our HVAC equipment, and we will be changing the filters in those units every other month.
Every other month. That don't
Yes.
matter. The HEPA filters are not certified for COVID-19 protection. I think you better go back and reevaluate that situation.
Okay, well,
This same question has been posed to the CDC, and they verified that proper ventilation, windows open, doors open, air, fans blowing through the building to ensure proper ventilation. The HVAC system is not safe.
okay, let me respond, sir, because see, I am trying to answer questions, and because you may have more expertise in this area, it's not a I got you kind of situation. And if you're more knowledgeable in that area, then I would have to ask my HVAC, my maintenance people to have that conversation with you. I am only giving you what I understand from my people, the general information, but by no means am I putting myself off as an expert in every single thing.
Then you're not educated and qualified to specify what is safe.
Okay, then I will accept that based on what you've stated.
Could I have a call? Could I expect a phone call from your HVAC people?
Absolutely, sir. It is, we are going and will continue to be as transparent as possible. And if you would like a call, my business administrator have your information, and I will make sure that our maintenance people reach out to you. No problem at all.
I look forward to that.
Thank you very much, sir. And again, I want to say to my board members and this entire community, we are going to do everything we can to make sure the staff and students in this school district are safe. And if there's anything we need to correct or do better, we're going to do that. But it is not a situation where we are going to intentionally put anyone in harm's way. But thank you for your
I have also another question. What is the plan in place to ensure that my child is safe in your classroom when a child in that classroom is infected and is tested positive? Are the children going to be tested? Is the teacher going to be tested? What is the procedure? There has nothing been said and publicized about your procedures.
Well, no one should be in our classroom who has tested positive for COVID-19.
I understand that, but how often are the children going to be tested? Are the children going to be tested? Or are we going to wait until a child becomes ill?
Okay, will you let me
And then we're gonna
respond? Will you let me respond?
let the horse out of the barn, isn't it?
Okay. I can't. Thank you, sir.
I believe the 4 minutes, Dr. Poteet, I believe the 4 minutes has expired.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Wow. Okay.
Good evening. You have joined the public comment section of the meeting. If you could state your name and address and then make your comment.
Latrice Chambers?
Which I didn't understand your first name. I'm sorry.
Yes, Latrice, and the last name is Chambers,
Latrice.
and the Chambers.
Mm-hmm.
This is 1 Gooseneck Lane.
You can make your comment.
Okay, good evening. I just wanted to know, I am choosing remote learning for my child. And is there any way, I know another caller mentioned possibly having at least one teacher from each grade, if you have enough students that are going to go remote, is that a possibility to have one teacher from each grade be able to log in and remote teach for at least 4 days? Because 1 day of instruction on the computer is not sufficient.
Oh, ma'am, there's no way for us to be able to make that determination until we have our staff in and we have our enrollments to determine how many students are coming in and how many are going to remain remote. We will make every attempt to increase that amount of online, face-to-face, remote instruction if we possibly can. But at this time, I can't. I'm unable to say yay or nay at this point.
Okay, and I understand that I am an actual special education teacher in another district, so I totally understand that. Do you know when you'll have that information so that maybe you can make plans so that our students are actually getting what they need versus 1 day of instruction? That's one question. The next question is, as far as the Wednesday remote learning, will there be a schedule for that day? Will the teachers actually log in? Or is it just a day that the students can actually just reach out and ask questions? Or is there an actual particular day?
The teacher has a schedule that they follow every day. Whether you're in the building or at home remote, you're following that same schedule. So the Wednesday schedule will be the same schedule that they followed on Monday and Tuesday. So that way is consistent across the board. You mentioned about the flexibility. The schedule and the plan is flexible, and I would like to believe that we will have the ability to make changes as we go along. So if we get that information and the staffing and enrollment changes, then we can make some additional changes based on those needs. So there is flexibility, and if it's something that we're able to do, then we're going to do it.
Okay. Okay, and last question, curriculum. Is there any way I can obtain this upcoming curriculum, this year's curriculum for my students that I will be teaching remotely?
Okay, if it, you can, is it high school, middle school, what grade?
It's actually first grade, elementary.
Okay, if you would contact the building principal of the school your child will be attending, I think she would be more than happy to, provide you with whatever information you need.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Good evening. You have joined the public comment section of the board meeting. Could you state your name and address and then provide your public comment?
And Portia Simmons, 15 Vanderbilt Court, Sicklerville, New Jersey.
And your comment?
I was calling to see, I did join the live a little late. I was calling to see, I did email Dr. Poteet on my questions of concern. And I wanted to know in regards to, I'm sorry, I'm trying to listen to the live and talk at the same time. So I wanted to know, emailing Dr. Poteet, if, the children who are part of the same household, is there any way that they will be able
to join like in school the same day, and offline on the same day. Or I don't know if in school is Monday and Tuesday, and then online learning is Wednesday, and then off Thursday, Friday.
We are trying our very best to make sure the children of the same last name, particularly families, are scheduled on the same day. Each school has tried to do their list by alpha. So we're hoping that we were able to accommodate you. I can't guarantee you that's going to happen, but that was our attempt, to try to make sure that siblings were attending school on the same day.
Ms. Simmons, did you hear the answer?
Yes, and I'm wait. Oh, I can keep talking because he's answering me.
Yeah, he finished, so there's a delay between what's live and then what comes across.
Okay, all right. So I hear that now. So my other question is, so I have guardianship of my sister, and my son attends the high school. So my sister will be entering middle school, and then my son will be going to high school, but they don't share the same last name.
That will be a little difficult. The challenge just doing the children with the same last name, they have different names. There's a very strong possibility that they may not be in school the same day. And I'm not sure what we can do at this point, but why don't we wait until
Dr. Poteet,
Yes.
may I ask, what is the grade of the high schooler?
The grade of the high schooler this will be their first year going into the high school.
So that's a ninth grader. And the middle school student?
This will be her first year going into middle school, and her name is Kimani Hall.
So that's a seventh and an eighth grader. Okay. So there is a strong possibility that they may be on the same day. At least one of the days will be the same.
Okay, that would be great, because I'm just worried. Like, I have to go into work, and I would just feel much comfortable if they're both in the, school at the same time and at home at the same time, rather one in and one out.
So when you get the information this weekend, it should tell you clearly whether or not they will be on the same day. It may work out for you for at least one of the days.
Okay, all righty. All right, so that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good evening. You have joined the public comment section of the board meeting. If you would state your name and address, and then you can make your comment.
My name is Lakeisha J. Blum, 104 Golden Meadow Lane, Lavelle. My comment.
Excuse me, can you spell your last name?
AJAEGBULEMH.
Okay. Would you make your comment?
All right. So first of all, I would like to say thank you for allowing us to continue calling in. I appreciate this. When you guys were talking about the bus route, one student per seat, how many bus are you adding additional bus routes?
At this point, we are not. It doesn't appear we have to, because the number of students per bus at this point, according to our transportation director, his preliminary assessment of what we're doing appears that he'll be able to run his routes as normally as we have done in the past.
Okay. And my other question is the teachers. Are the teachers on board with actually going back to school?
Well, we did an assessment, and the majority of them are. And of course, we have a percentage that are not. But we will and will not be able to determine how many of them are in fact coming in until, our first day of school for staff. So at this point, I would say based on what we know, the majority of them are on board coming back to school. But that's again, something we'll be able to finalize once we have our first day.
And when is the first day?
September 2nd, I think. Dr. Carcamo, do you have a calendar in front of you? I think the first day of school is September 2nd.
For teachers. Teachers will come in on that Tuesday and Wednesday. Actually, yes.
September 2nd, right?
Yes.
Yes, September 2nd.
September 2nd. You are requiring parents to make a decision for remote learning or in person 2 weeks prior to that?
Yes, 2 weeks prior to the opening of school, because that was the requirement that we were given in the guidelines by the governor, that we must inform our parents of our plan. And but look at it from this perspective. We're at the point where we are a week away from starting school. So my question would be, at what point would you make the decision, if not before the first day of school?
Yeah. Well, I mean, things keeps changing so fast. So the majority, from what I've been reading, we all wanted remote learning, but without the equity, I'm definitely on the fence because in-person instruction or being able to get a teacher is definitely was one of my main concerns. And I wanted to find out the teachers' feedback and how do they feel about this too. But thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for calling in.
Okay.
Excuse me, Dr. Poteet?
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am.
Poteet, for clarification, the last caller was asking about the first day of school. Was she asking when the teachers were coming back?
Yes,
Or was she
teachers.
asking the general first day of school for all children?
No, teachers.
Okay, teachers. All
For
right.
teachers. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Boyle.
I'm looking to see if there's any more callers. There are no callers at this time, Madam President.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Boyle. So therefore, at this time, since there are no more callers, board members, I at this time am going to ask for a
Madam
motion.
President, I'm
Yes.
sorry, someone just called through.
Okay.
You have joined the public comment section of the board meeting. Could you state your name and address and your public comment?
Blanca Martinez, 302 Grant Avenue, apartment 1, Chislehurst, New Jersey, 08089.
All right, you can make your comment.
I would like to know, first, thank you for accepting my call. And I would like to know, are they going to give the kids, because my daughter struggled a lot with the remote learning, and I am a parent who's going to be sending my daughter to school. I would like to know, are they going to give the kids additional help that are struggling?
If you are sending your child to school, what grade is she in, ma'am?
She's going to be going into the 5th grade.
Okay, so therefore she'll be receiving 2 days of face-to-face instruction. And we will, as we always have, we'll try to provide as many services as we possibly can to our young people. So my response to you would be, yes, we will give her the additional services that she needs.
Okay. And also with the bottled waters, they're not allowed to bring their own, like, brand new bottled water, correct?
Well, if we are providing water in school, there really wouldn't be a need for them to bring their own. It's just something less that they would have to carry in their book bags or lunch boxes.
Okay. All right. Because I prefer bottled water than them using the the water fountain. So I thought that was a good
Yes.
idea. And also with the no gloves, that's also a great idea because that just spreads infection.
Right.
And for the computers, we can request, there's going to be a paper online for requesting them.
Yes, ma'am. There will be a form on the website asking you whether or not you need any services. It will be the technology request form, and is asking whether or not you need a Chromebook or internet activity, and you fill out your child's name, your name, and the school, and then we will make sure that whatever it is you're requesting, that you will receive that equipment or those services.
Okay, great. And then school list forms, are they also going to be available on the internet like they are every year?
When you say school list forms, I'm not sure what you're referring
School
to.
supply list?
Oh, supply.
What are they going to need as in materials?
That list will be placed on the website as well.
Okay, and the kids will still be needing to wear uniforms?
Yes.
Okay, and all right, I have one. Oh, when will the kids be going back to school? Do you know that yet? What day?
We are, our initial day was the 4th of September, but we're in conversation with our my leadership team and the leadership of the education committee, because we're looking at some additional training for our teachers, because with all this new online and remote learning, you know, some of our teachers need some additional assistance. So I'll be presenting possibly something to the board at our next board meeting. And if there is any changes, we'll make that available to the parents in advance. It may be a day or two later or right after Labor Day or something at this point, but I will be presenting something to the board after I've had an opportunity to continue to have that assessed for some teacher training. But we'll make sure either it will remain the same or we'll be asking for a few training days and possibly asking the children to come in after Labor Day.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
All right, thank you for calling.
Dr. Poteet, at this time, I'm just going to ask if any board members would have any questions or comment at this time. But I would just like Dr. Poteet to make a comment specifically, excuse me, with regards to the remote learning. Now, I, like everyone else, and I'm certainly just as well as all of our board members, have been just about hanging on every word glued that's coming out of Trenton with regards to what the governor is saying and what educators are saying. And what, with regards to remote learning, there was a statement that one it was at the national information that board members get. One educator said with regards to remote learning that certainly they felt that the remote learning is an acceptable substitute. And I thought that was an interesting comment. And I would just like to share that with you. So therefore, board members, if you have no questions or comments?
Madam President,
Yes.
there are callers.
Okay, let's continue.
Okay. Good evening. You've joined the public comment section of the board meeting. If you could state your name and address and make your comment.
Glenn Meredith, 7 Cedar Hill Drive, Sticklerville, New Jersey. My comment is, I'm wondering what provisions are going to be made for special ed classes with one-on-one students. Is there going to be any special safety precautions, or are masks going to be required for the students?
Speaker, could you spell your last name, just?
Meredith.
Then your last name.
That is my last name.
Meredith. What's your first name then, sir?
Glenn.
Glenn. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We are going to take every precaution we possibly can As you know, we are requiring face masks, and for those young people who cannot wear face masks, we are going to be offering a face shield. On the other hand, we will have dividers, those plastic plexiglass type of things, so that the teacher can get as close as possible to provide those services, but also provide as much protection as possible. So we are going to try to make sure we provide those services, but we also going to take the precautionary measures that we possibly can to keep everyone safe.
Is there any plans for possibly requiring the student to stay at home if they cannot adhere to wearing a mask? And
we will leave that decision.
Children need special attention, and sometimes it's impossible to do anything else but have contact with these children.
Right. Well, we will work with you, sir. And if that's a decision that you decide to make to keep your child home, we will still make every effort to provide those services.
In other words, there's no real special ed plan at this time.
I don't understand what you mean. There is no real plan.
These special ed children that are one-on-one students can't be treated the same as, let's say, a fifth grader that is in a normal class. You can tell a fifth grader to put the mask on. Sometimes you cannot tell a special ed child that is having an episode to put a mask on.
Right. We are aware of that, sir. We are aware of that. And we also know that there are issues that prevent many of our special education students from putting anything on their face or on their body or whatever it may be. What I am saying to you is, if that is the case and you feel that your child cannot come to school, then the school will make every effort to continue to provide those services while your child's at home.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Madam President, I have no more callers on the line. Madam President, one's calling through. Pick it up. Good evening. You have joined the public's comment section of the board meeting. If you could state your name and address.
Yes. My first name is William. My last name is Crawley.
Could you make your comment?
I'm sorry, I'm not here. I apologize.
Could you make your comment?
Yes. I'm just a little, I guess, confused. I guess earlier on when remote learning was discussed, I was under the assumption that, remote learning was going to be, I guess, taught the same way as, the children in the actual school setting. But tonight's meeting, I'm getting, I guess, a little bit, I guess, different information, I guess, stating that remote learning isn't going to be, I guess, live stream, quote unquote. It's disappointing, you know what I mean? Of course, all the parents, want to assure the safety of their children, but now hearing that remote learning is not going to be live, active, so to speak, it definitely throws a monkey wrench in the situation. Some of our students are visual learners, meaning that they have to, be there, I guess, or I guess hear a session, at firsthand. Just knowing now, remote learning is not live. It's very, very disappointing to get that information. So, it sounds like we're forced, and I know we're not technically forced to do anything, but so to speak, like we have to have our kids go into the school setting because now remote learning is not live learning. It's just really, really disappointing to hear that. So I just wanted to just, make that comment. And I wish that was, brought up, initially, you know what I mean? That, I guess we didn't have the funding here, I guess in this township, or remote learning wasn't live learning. It's just very, very disappointing. And I'm not even sure if anything can be, done at this point regarding, the change of remote learning. You know what I mean? So that's all I wanted to say in regards to that.
Thank you, Mr. Crawley. Okay. Mr. Crawley?
Ms. Boyle,
Yes.
Yes.
Madam President?
has Mr. Crawley finished?
Yes, he's finished. He's still on the line.
Mr. Crawley, did you want an answer? I thought you were making a statement. Did you want a response?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, like, why
Well,
was
let me, well, Mr. Crowley, I'm not aware of anyone stating to you that remote learning was anything other than what we already have on the table. I cannot recall ever stating that the remote learning will be live or live stream, or that there will be a teacher providing services on a daily basis. If that's what someone may have said or shared with you, I'm not aware of it, but that was never something that was put out by the district.
Okay, I guess just to get some feedback in regard to that, sir. So, I guess, so when a child is, or children are doing remote learning, like they're not getting, I guess, that same attention as if they were in the school setting. However, we're putting our children at risk when the children are, I guess, going into the school setting. However, if you don't send them to school, you know what I mean? You know, and some kids require that extra attention. I guess it's a catch-22. You know, you don't send them, they have the remote, you know, they drift behind. You send them to school, then the children are at risk. You know what I mean? So
Yes, I do, Mr. Crowley. As
view that
I understand 100%, not only as superintendent, as a parent of school-age children myself. So I truly understand the dilemma that you're in. I wish that I was able to provide more direct instruction to the remote students. Based on what I have to provide and what I'm dealing with at this point, it's the best I have to offer. But I truly understand, and it's not an excuse that I'm giving you. I'm just saying to you, this is the best that I can do with what I have to work with. And I understand your situation.
Okay, I understand. And just last comment, you know, I hope, you know, no one contracts this COVID-19 virus. If it does, God forbid, I mean, I hope we can definitely give some more thought into the whole remote learning process. It's just extremely scary. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate your comments.
Good evening. If you could state your name and address. You've joined the public comment section of the board meeting. So if you provide your name and address, and then you can make your comment.
Hi, yes, my name is Jasmine. My address is 501 Spruce Seville, New Jersey.
And your I'm sorry, your last name, I caught Jasmine.
I'm sorry, Jasmine Pita.
Can you spell your last name, please?
P-I-T-A.
P-I-T-A. Thank you.
Hi, yes. I had a question. In regards to the remote learning, how would that schedule go about? I probably missed the first half of the meeting, and I had a question in regards to that.
The remote learning student will have the same schedule as the student in face-to-face. For example, if your child's in the elementary school and they are in group A and they go to school Monday and Tuesday, your child will be following the same schedule of that teacher. If the child is in the high school and they're in cohort A, they will follow the same schedule as the cohort A group of students. They will have the same textbooks, the same materials, and all the subject matter and everything will be exactly the same. They will follow the schedule. So if their first class is English, then they'll have English the first part of their day. If it's math, the second period, and so on and so forth, but they'll just follow the same schedule of the group of students that they have been assigned to.
Okay, yeah, my concern was more, I actually am a mother of 3 young children, and they're in different grades. And I was actually, first, like right now, everything is just a learning experience for everybody. And I wanted to know if I was to do a virtual, that's mainly what I'm looking to do with my children. How would that work as in, like for teachers and stuff? I know you said, you never mentioned a live stream or anything like that when it comes to them being educated, but how would that differ to the other children?
Well, each child will be in a different grade, am I correct?
Correct.
So each child will have a different teacher. And each child will follow the schedule of that teacher. It's just like any other time that they would be in school, depending on their grade, they have a different teacher, they follow a different schedule, and they also will follow a different curriculum.
Okay, and this would be, this decision would be made once we file that, what is it, like a resume, something that we have to fill out?
Well, if you want to do the remote instruction, we would ask that you go online and you do one for each child because they're in different grades. And just let us know that you want full-time remote, and the building principal will take care of it from there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Dr. Poteet?
Yes.
Dr. Poteet, I'm going to pause for a moment because I do know that several of our board members have other meetings to attend. And if I have less than 5, I cannot continue this as a bona fide meeting. And so, board members, I need to know how many of us are still a part of this meeting. And I'm hoping that I still have 5.
Blake's here.
Martin's here. McClendon's here.
Thomas is here.
That's 4.
I will stay, but I do have early training tomorrow at Rollins. I will stay, but if it goes past 9, I'm really pushing it because I have a session to train because we're doing the same thing at Rollins. So
Okay.
if you can understand that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Peterson. So Dr. Poteet, I still have 5, so I still have a quorum, so we still have a legitimate board meeting.
Mrs. Pitts, I do have a question for Dr. Poteet.
Yes, Mr. Blake.
Real quick, Dr. Poteet, I just wanted to follow up with that one parent that just got off the call. I guess my concern is for our working families. If a family decides to choose remote, how flexible is Winslow staff members with families? For example, if there is an essential worker who is working during the school day and cannot work with their kid who is a first or second grader, and for whatever reason, the first or second grader is not at a place where they can kind of do the work, how flexible will the teachers be for our families? That's the question I'm asking.
Well, Mr. Blake, I cannot ask a teacher to work beyond their contracted hours, and we are asking everyone to follow their normal scheduled day because many of the parents had asked us to pretty much stick to some type of schedule for organization and planning purposes. However, you do know that we had a lot of teachers who extended themselves beyond what was asked of them. So I think what it boils down to, not necessarily me mandating one way or the other, but the flexibility of that individual teacher. So it would be up to the teacher, Mr. Blake. It wouldn't be something that I could designate or mandate through a directive that they have to do it because you well know contractually that's something I could not do.
I definitely understand, especially as first vice president of the teachers union in another district. I definitely get that, but I just wanted to know about the flexibility because I think from what I heard that family member say in the last caller that it may be difficult with her with her own children. And it sounds like that, she has some other obligations that might happen during the school day. And so it sounded like to me a flexibility question. So I just wanted clarification on my end.
Right. I'm not sure how that can happen, Mr. Blake. we will have a designated time for things to happen, but I think it would depend on the individual teacher.
Okay. And then one last question, which is a little different from what I just asked. I know there are some students who may be difficult. I think another caller talked about masks and if they don't wear a mask and, you know, those kinds of things. What are some of the consequences that the policy committee have put forth? So for instance, if a student puts another student in harm's way or a staff member in harm's way, what are the possible consequences? Will it be like they have to go home and do like a remote day the next day? Like, I'm just curious. I just
No,
wanted to know.
we do not have a procedure in place to remove a student, Mr. Blake. And as you well know, all of this is new to us. And as far as a penalty is concerned, we have not put that in place. It's something to be determined as we continue to move forward. The policy committee will have to meet and discuss how they want to move forward with the assistance of the administration. But I would hope that we are not in a position where we're suspending children for not wearing a mask and that sort of thing. And I'm hoping that the parents will be working with us. But let me say this, as I mentioned earlier, Mr. Blake, that's going to be a challenge. That's going to be a challenge for us. We know it's going to be a challenge for us. It's going to be a challenge for parents, and it's going to be a challenge for any educator anywhere in the state of New Jersey or anywhere else in the country. But I'm hoping we'll be able to address it. But if you're asking me what are the penalties in place, we don't have any in place at this point. But I hesitate at this point to say we're going to start sending children home, because that's not necessarily what I would like to do.
Great response. Thank you, Dr.
So, Mr. Blake,
Yeah.
coming from the policy committee, I would just like to say this, necessity is the mother of invention. And so we are on uncharted territory. And so we absolutely, as a policy committee, with the policy committee, will be bringing forth to the board some remedies for such action as you've just stated. Okay?
Dr. Poteet?
Yes.
And Ms. McClendon. Just listening to some of the comments that were coming in from a lot of the parents, especially it seems like there's going to be a dilemma with parents deciding, if they haven't already, whether or not if they're going to go strictly remote based on if teachers are returning. So that seems like that's going to be, we want them to respond or let us know 2 weeks before school, but we don't have the information yet to provide whether or not if we're going to have enough staff available. So it seems like that's going to be one of the issues that parents are facing now. Secondly, remote learning. I know you and I have talked about remote learning regarding, students not getting the same instruction if they're not in person. That seems like that's a barrier for us right now. And hopefully, something will come through where as though we work around that barrier. But live streaming, we understand that live streaming may be an issue, but we also talked about maybe some type of video conferencing on those days when students are with that group, but they're working remotely from home. It seems like that's one of the issues that a lot of parents are throwing at us right now in the question area of why their child is not going to get the same type of instruction, which leads us back to equity issues on that case. So I think that's something for the district and the board to really consider and look at that and find a way to get around that barrier that we're facing that right now. Because if other districts are being able to provide that service, then we have to kind of figure out how we as a district can accommodate that as well. Now, I know that we talked about a lot of Chromebooks being purchased. Every student may not want to use the district Chromebook because they may have a laptop or so of their own. And we won't know how many laptops are going to go out, Chromebooks are going to go out, and how many will stay stationary within the district. but maybe that could be part of the solution of making sure that some teachers have Chromebooks in front of them so that if there's not live streaming, it can be some type of video conferencing like we're doing now in a way so that students can actually take part on the in-person instruction from a remote location. So, I mean, that's something that we need to think about, board members, as well, because that has been a lot of the concerns coming tonight from parents. So we want to try to make it a win-win for everyone because it's a tight situation. You know, we don't know what September is going to look like when it comes. We may end up going remote completely. We don't know that. But if so, we need to make sure, or at least do our best, our diligence to make sure that we can accommodate on all areas if we can.
So, Ms. McClendon, I can assure you that this district, and I'm sure that I speak for the rest of our board, that we are going to do every single thing and use every single resource and go in every direction that we can to make sure that our children, whether the parents choose to remotely have them receive instruction or whether parents choose to have in person, that every child is going to get equitable education. Because I heard you tonight, and I've also heard parents say, and I've received emails from parents who say that the remote learning has helped their child because for their particular children, it took away all of the distractions of a classroom. So remote learning, certainly as Dr. Poteet has said, and as we as a district know, is totally up to the parent. But every single child in this district, whether remote learning or whether in-person learning, is going to get the very best education that our resources can provide for our children. And so, Ms. McCoy, Dr. Poteet, I'm sorry, Ms. McClendon put the question to you. I just wanted to comment.
I heard what Mrs. McClendon said, and it's not as a result of us not trying. I just don't know how else I can answer the same question that's been posed numerous times. Sitting here, Mrs. McClendon and Mrs. Pitts, I don't know how else to answer any other way than I already have. I heard the comments, I understand the concerns, and as a district, we're going to continue to do what we can to provide that service. But right now, I don't have any other solutions tonight to give other than I've already stated. So I hear what people are saying, and we'll go back to the drawing board and provide, see what we can do. But trust me, it's not because of the lack of people trying to make this work. Again, I hear people saying other districts, and I've been in communication with every school district in Camden County, and I hear what they're doing and what they're going to try, but they're pretty much in the same situation that I am in. And I would be remiss if they came up with some ideas and solutions that we could do that I wouldn't present or have not presented to this community already. So at this point, you know, it's not like we're sitting in a vacuum. I'm listening to and talking to as many of my colleagues as I possibly can. Because we all realize that this is a challenge for all of us, and no one has any upper hand than the other. And so we're ideas and suggestions as we go along, and I'll continue to communicate and do whatever I can to, you know, to improve what we presently have in place.
Thank you, Dr. Poteet. Ms. Boyle,
Yes, Madam President.
do we have any more callers on the line?
Yes, Madam President. We've had at least 3 or 4 calling repeatedly trying to get in. So if we could go back.
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. You've joined the public comment section of the board meeting. Could you state your name and address, and then you can make your comment.
My name is Paulette Cox. My address is 551 Cali Road, Sicklerville, New Jersey. I would just like to make 2 suggestions. Well, one is a question. Is it possible for the district to put a call out for retired teachers to volunteer to
work with remote students as well. And also, I was wondering for remote students, is it possible for the district to arrange for the students to Zoom in for perhaps the first 10 minutes or so of each class so that they can get that interaction with the teachers, and then they could log off and get straight to their work? Those are my questions.
Asking retirees to volunteer. Sure, we can do that. I think it's a suggestion that a couple people have asked. As a matter of fact, one person did say that she was a retired teacher and she knew a couple others who were willing to assist. And I'm not opposed to assisting and trying to get retirees to volunteer. So it's a suggestion that we will, take a look at.
Yes, it certainly warms my heart to hear the caller earlier to volunteer her time. And I feel if one person, well, she said there was one other person, but I feel if one person was willing to do that, our district may have a host of others who would be willing, considering the unusual circumstances that we're experiencing at the moment.
And your second question, did you say that children should be able to log into the classroom so that they can be a part of the live class? Is that what you asked? I'm not sure.
Yes, for perhaps the first 10 minutes of class for direct instructions, and then they could log off and go and work independently for the rest of the session.
Yes, that was a question that's been asked numerous times today. At this point, we do not have the equipment available for that to happen for all of our teachers. But again, it's something that I've made note of. And, again, things are changing. Our plan is flexible. So we'll see what we can do to try to expand our remote instruction. So at this point, I will make a note of it.
So Dr. Poteet, if I might add, the principals and I had that discussion yesterday. So we are looking to see how we can include the remote students more.
Thank you. May I just ask, what is it exactly you need to make this possible?
Every teacher should have at a minimum a Chromebook or a device that has a camera as well as a speaker, so that when you log in, you can see into the classroom, you can see the teacher, and that way you're able to be a part of that classroom. So that would be the minimum equipment you would need in order for that to happen.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just thinking that is such a common, I'm currently working remotely myself. I haven't gone into the city since March for work, and I'm very busy. I work almost every day on Zoom remotely. I think this is very common. And have you done a survey to find out from teachers whether or not they have this equipment available?
Most of them have the equipment at home, their personal equipment at home, because we were able to take advantage of that this past year. But as far as them having that equipment here in school, in district, the answer is no.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your time. It's been really interesting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. You have joined the public comment section of the board meeting. Please state your name and your address, and then you can make your comment.
Donna Totora, T-O-T-O-R-A, Mays Landing Road, Winslow, 08037. My question is, will we be getting lesson plans that the teachers are using so that we can coordinate our home lessons with what they're doing in class? Rather than, I know Dr. Poteet just said that they would have the materials, they would have the books, they would have anything that they have in class. But I just want to make sure, keeping the girls on track with what is happening in the classroom, that we have the same lesson plans, that we can do the same lessons each day. Will that be made available?
So all of the students will have access to Google. They will have a password and they will have access to each one of their teachers' website or lessons. The lessons will be laid out per teacher. So for each subject area, for math, they would simply have to click on to that, to the teacher's site, and the lesson would be posted there.
Would that be the same thing for kindergarten and first grade? Because last year there was nothing done with the computers for the lower grades.
That's correct. Kindergarten, the elementary grades did not have computers last year. So this year it will be different.
Okay, so if I need the computers, I would go online and register for that. And also I would have to register to say they're doing remote learning, correct? Just to make sure.
That's correct. There will be two separate forms. All of the forms that you need will be listed on the district's website.
Any questions for?
And when you complete the forms, you simply hit submit.
I just wasn't sure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Gosh, okay. Good evening. You have joined the public comment section of the board meeting. If you could state your name and address and then make your comment.
Hello, this is Shireen Dukas.
Can you spell,
37 Code
can you spell your first name, please?
Shereen.
Okay. And your address.
37 Coach Light Drive, Sickleville.
All right, you can make your comment.
Has the board considered tapping into the National Honor Society for providing tutoring? I know that they have some community service requirements, and that could kill two birds with one stone. Maybe we can tap into that as a solution for tutoring some of the middle school and elementary students. That's one question. The next question deals with the preschool lottery. I have emailed some board members and Dr. Carcamo about the preschool lottery not happening for the 2020-21 school year. I was interested in actually getting the data that was used to make the decision for not having the preschool lottery for the general public. Were there a lot of students who fell under the SPED and economically disadvantaged students than any other previous year? Like, were there a lot more of those students applying for preschool lottery than, and that it was a decision, this is how you made the decision in order to not have the regular general public preschool lottery? I know that I've been looking in the comments section and some people have asked about the preschool lottery. So I wanted to, the question is more about the data that was used in order to decide not to open up the preschool lottery.
Well, first, Mr. Klaus, let me say that we're not obligated to have a lottery, nor have we ever been. We've only held the lottery when we had slots available. And in some cases, there was not a lottery for every school. That was only if there were extra spaces. This year, knowing that we had to reduce the number of students in preschool, we already knew how many students we could at least accommodate in a classroom. That right there, right off the bat, limited the number of students that we would be able to take. And since it is an income eligible program, the first consideration goes to those students who are income eligible. And based upon those numbers, the number of people who applied for the preschool lottery who were income eligible, we then knew whether or not there would be a need for a lottery. And there was not at this time. As I also said to you, that things could change, and this happens every year. In the last 12 years that I've been here, things change with the preschool. Some parents decide that they don't want to take advantage of the preschool slot that they have, and they drop out. But there's always a change. And that could very well be the case this year. But if there is a change, again, if there are eligible income students, those students would be considered over those students who are not.
So a general ed student wouldn't have an opportunity to go on a week?
Only if there was a lottery. Again, we have to look at the eligible income student first.
Did you hear me?
I'm sorry?
Did you hear what I said?
Can you repeat it?
I said, so if I were to sum up what you just said, that a general education student who wants to be enrolled in preschool will not be placed on a waiting list.
No, we don't have a waiting list. The only time, may I finish? If we had available slots, Mrs. Dukas, we would average.
Repeating it.
Well, then there's nothing else I can say differently. I thought that it was very, very clear. The only time that would be available is if we had available slots. And at this time, we don't have one. If we had slots available, then we would do it as a lottery process, the same way that we've always done. That notice would be posted on the district website for all of the parents. And then they would decide whether or not they wanted to submit their child's name.
And Dr. Carcamo and Ms. Pitts, I believe that the 4 minutes has expired.
That is correct, it has.
My first question was never answered.
Okay, I can respond to that. Upper grade students becoming tutors online is something that took place last year, particularly at the high school. I'm not sure when, as far as the lower elementary schools, but I do know we had tutoring services available even prior to us having a health related closure. But I don't think that would be a problem for us to have that conversation with the high school and the middle school to see if there would be students interested in tutoring our younger students. So that is something we can put on the table and pursue, but it would just be an extension of what we pretty much have had in the past. So I don't see that being, an issue unless, we don't get as many students, whatever. But I think it's something that can happen. That's not, I don't think that should be a problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Carcamo, I have a question based off of what the last caller was just talking about. So right now, we don't have any preschool slots available. So regardless if you're income eligible or general, because we don't have slots available, it works for all parents. Is that what you're saying?
So if we had additional preschool eligible students, in order to take them, that would increase the size of the classroom. There are many things that we have to consider in doing that. Is it possible that we might be able to take a couple more eligible preschool students? Yes, but it also means that we may not be able to have the students placed 6 feet apart in the classroom.
So social distancing has limited the size of the classrooms than it was in previous years. So at this point, that is that is the reason why we're not able to do all the things we want to do, even in the hybrid models, because we have to make sure that the health and safety guidelines are adhered to first, and then we work around them. So smaller classrooms, of course, is mandatory. And we cannot increase those class sizes without jeopardizing the health and safety of everyone in the classroom itself.
Thanks, Dr. Carcamo. I just wanted to
You're
kind of
welcome.
understand more in detail when you were trying to explain that we didn't have any open slots compared to whether the student was an eligible student or if they were general students. So just want clarification on that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam President, we don't
Yes.
have any other callers calling in at this point.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Poole. Therefore, at this point, board members, I'm asking for a motion to adjourn our public comments.
Peterson move.
Moved by Ms. Peterson,
Second by Martin.
second by Ms. Martin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Before I ask to adjourn this meeting, again, I would like to thank board members for your patience and for your due diligence in hanging in there with us. And I hope that we have been able to answer as many questions as possible. And I would say, any of the public, if you have additional questions, and you probably will have as we go forward, please feel free to contact the district board members by email and telephone, whichever is most convenient for you. Before we close, I would just like to just make mention of one thing that has to do with our health, and we're all familiar with it. I'm not sure that everyone knows. I would just like to state that there's free COVID testing that's being offered from St. Matthew's Baptist Church, 245 Glassboro Road in Williamstown. It took place today. It also will take place tomorrow from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. And I'm sharing that because I personally went and had the COVID test. They are also giving the antibody test, and I took them both. So again, it's at St. Matthew's Baptist Church at 245 Glassboro Road in Williamstown, and they are offering free COVID testing beginning at 12 p.m. through 7 p.m. And before I ask to adjourn, I would just say to all of us, please stay safe, stay strong, and stay healthy. Motion to adjourn
Peterson move.
by Ms. Peterson, and by Ms. McClendon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned. Everyone have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.